What's going on? Big A, the Man Geek, coming at you with another video. And yesterday night, the YouTube algorithm decided to suggest to me a video called hashtag ComicsGate and the war and diversity in comic books. And I didn't really have a time to watch it because it was like 1 a.m. in the morning. So I thought, I'll watch it tomorrow. I kind of watched like the first few seconds, and yeah, it's a very interesting video. The guy who posted it, well, I think his name's Jose or something like that, or Jose. I don't know how you say that, but it's Jos and the E with like the accent on top, and it's very well put together. I can't knock that. It's got pretty good editing, um, but really, to be honest, everything like about Comicsgate is kind of poorly kind of researched, and it doesn't really go in depth. It doesn't, I'd like someone to kind of like do a literal history, more or less, of everything, and then you'll see it's not entirely one-sided one way or the other. Like, I think it's kind of much more closer to the middle with who's done what. And obviously, a video like this will only focus on certain figureheads and then kind of deconstruct those and then claim, well, everyone who uses the tag is like that. But at the end of the day, the hashtag ComicsGate is just a hashtag. It was just a hashtag for people to kind of come together who agree on certain points in regards to the comic book industry, and that's all it was really. I mean, yeah, all right. Let's say there has been some online harassment. There's some people who have poked the hornet's nest to get that harassment. There are other people who probably didn't deserve any harassment whatsoever, regardless as to like whatever comic books they've written or has had things said about them. I don't agree with that kind of stuff, but any criticism that is made is still valid regardless as to whether there is any harassment. Now, I've not been any part of any targeted or harassment, and no one that I personally associate with or who frequents my channel, I don't think they've been part in any kind of harassment. Have people had strong opinions? Maybe, but there's never been like an email or a tweet going around or anything in my DM saying go and attack this person. And in fact, I actually actively avoid speaking to those people because I know whatever I'm going to say, if it is a genuine criticism, it will be ignored because it's much more convenient to acknowledge any kind of harassment and respond to that than actually respond to any criticism. And I reckon there'll be more criticism than the actual harassment. That's not saying that harassment isn't important and that someone shouldn't get it, because that's not what I'm saying at all. So if that is your takeaway from what I've just said, then you're clearly not listening. Anyway, onto the video. Right, there's so much in this video. It's so long that I think for me to respond to everything would take about an hour, and I just don't have that time. I watched the first 15 minutes, and I think the most important part, I mean, leading up to what I consider the most important part, like I was saying a moment ago, there is a lot of inconsistencies and a few reaches here and there. Um, and those have to be done. I can see why that individual's done it. It's because without those, they don't really have much of an argument. So it's easier to paint people who are criticizing the comic book industry as bigots, as misogynists, racists, etc., homophobes, all of the above. It's easier to do that than actually respond to any of the critiques. There have been more genuine critiques than there has anything else. So I don't know why I've yet to see anyone respond to any critiques of modern comics without resorting to pretty much calling someone a bigot, which is, it kind of made the video kind of a bit boring for me when I was watching it. But the most important part, like I was saying, is this bit that I got to, where kind of the values, or more the ideas of Comicsgate are brought up. And if you look at them, they're completely, I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I don't see anything that's wrong with them at all. They seem completely like fine. They're timid, but if anything, I mean, they're not, I won't call them demands. I'll just call them kind of like just the ideas, and as to kind of the issues that people have had. So the first one, less politics, specifically left-wing or progressive politics in stories. Now, let's say we lived in an alternative universe where it was the other way around and it was a lot of right-wing politics, or conservative rather, politics in stories over anything else. I would be saying less politics, specifically right-wing or conservative politics in stories. I'd be saying the exact same thing but flipped, because I don't think it should be either or. I think there should be a nice middle ground between the two, because the world isn't just one way. Not always people on the left are correct. So I don't know why it should always be left-wing politics that's pushed constantly in comic books. And I'm left-leaning. I'm left, center-left. I, I just I just don't see as to why it should be balanced. They should. I think I sound like Thanos, but there should be balance in kind of like the politics in comic books. I can't see any reason as to why it shouldn't be. And I'm sure there's a lot of people on the left, or progressives even, who would say the same thing if we lived in that alternate universe. They would definitely be saying the same thing, because they wouldn't want comic books to be one way. I mean, every now and again I'll see a tweet. I've seen this tweet by various people where they say, "Oh well, people who are ComicsGate are only angry because it's not their politics." So they're confirming that it is a left-wing bias, but they're saying, "Oh, it's fine though. It's our politics, so it's fine. It's not yours. If it was yours, then it wouldn't be. It's ours, so it's fine." And that I can't live by that kind of rule. Like, I think there needs to be some kind of balance within that. And also, if you are going to do any kind of heavily like political stories or social political stories and whatnot, I think it's really, really important for the writers to try and not be really heavy-handed about it, because otherwise, what's the point in telling the story if there's no kind of nuance and there's no kind of really kind of looking at things and seeing how this thing could be right or wrong. For example, Civil War, I'd say is clearly a political kind of story, but done in the context of a superhero universe, and it's a good one. And it's one about two sides. Do you want superhero registration or no superhero registration? And it seems like something quite simple, but kind of like the more you read it, the more you get into it. It's not something that's there's different things that support either side. You can see the benefits of each, and that's what makes it such an interesting story. But yeah, less politics, specifically left-wing or progressive politics and stories. That's that's fine. It's balance, like Thanos says, perfect balance. And I think that would make everyone happy, and it would make me want to spend money on more books, because I've recently dropped books because I'm just not enjoying them. I'm not enjoying the writing really that much, and I don't get a kick out of them the way I used to. So I've actually cut down quite a lot. Number two, not hiring writers and artists on the basis of their gender, sexuality, or ethnicity. Now, I think the guy who posted the original video, from what I can tell from what he said, I think he is white. So I don't think he'll necessarily understand this the way me, a black person, will. If I was a writer and I'd never written a comic book before, and I had a small fan base and people liked my novels, and then I had Marvel or DC come to me and say, "We want you for a project," I'd be like, "Cool, sweet." And then I find out that they're giving me like my own series. I would be a little suspicious, because I've not paid my dues. I've not gone through the ropes. I've not worked my way up. So would it be that they thought I was good enough, or would it be that they just want to hire me so they can go, "Oh, look who we've got. We've got another person of color on our staff"? I would absolutely hate that if that was the case. And there have been some instances where it has looked like Marvel has done that, for example. And that would actually, for any job, forget writing, for any job, if someone had hired me not because I was good at something, but because of what I looked like, it would absolutely kill me on the inside. Maybe this guy wouldn't understand that. I don't know. But it seems like I have no idea, but I would personally, I would absolutely hate that, and it would make me angry to the core, because essentially you're saying I'm nothing more than a prop to make you look good, and I am no one's stepping stone, so I would not want that to happen to me. So doing that is a negative thing. It shouldn't be done. Someone should just be hired because they're good and they're good at writing stories. Yes, I guess that there is kind of certain insight that people from specific groups can have when it comes to stories about that group. If someone's from that group and are writing about that group, then yeah, sure. But also, I guess you can get that insight by talking to people. So if someone who's not from that group is writing X character and they talk to people from X group, then they can acquire that insight to then write for that character. So it's not the character does not have to match the writer, for example. It doesn't have to. If it does by coincidence, cool. But if you're going out of your way to do that, then I'm just like, I don't get that. I'd feel so angry about that, and I'd hate that if that was me anyway. But yeah, it's again that's a completely fine point to make because it's about people. You want people to be hired because they're good, not because of who they are. Not replacing, embarrassing, or changing older heroes. Older heroes are some of your most popular and have been around forever, in some cases 80 years. Will there be times when they get replaced temporarily? Sure, we've seen that with characters in the past, and it's completely fine. But what Marvel did with Marvel Now and All New, All Different, that wasn't the same kind of thing because it was totally clear that it that from the way they made it sound, it was like they're replacing them for good. There was never a time given for when the old characters would be back. Characters like the Hulk, for example, was killed off. If you were always going to bring him back in such a quick space of time, you would never have killed him off to replace him with Amadeus Cho. And the sad thing is, the characters like Amadeus Cho, it's like they've been around for a little bit before that, but then they'd never really properly done anything with them that great. Why don't you just add to what you already have? So keep your classic characters and just add in the new ones. Don't make him like replace anything. There's no point in replacing him because then your old school fans who have a lot of disposable income, they get they get mad. They drop the book. They don't start buying it. But then some new fans will come in. They'll probably buy that new book, but there won't be enough of them to keep that book on the shelf, and then it will get cancelled. That's what's happened with a lot of books. I feel, especially when it's come to X, whatever character replacing an old school character. It's like all these new characters could have been really good as long as they kept what worked before and just had them in addition. Marvel could have had their cake and eaten it, and that could have been a big ass cake as well. But they didn't do that. Instead, they decided to do what they did. People weren't happy with it, and then after so much complaining from people, then they brought them back and made it sound like that was always going to be the case and it was always a short temporary thing when it clearly never wasn't. Otherwise, you wouldn't advertise it as kind of like all new and all different. You wouldn't advertise it at all. You can change the older heroes, I think. In terms of character development, I think that's okay, like changing in that respect. Embarrassing them, I'm not sure as to what they mean by that. Um, I guess don't make him do anything stupid, I guess. But I mean that's quite that wouldn't be one of my points. I'd actually cross that bit out because that doesn't. I don't know how you'd embarrass them. Everyone's going to get the occasional crappy issue. I guess treating them like a goofball, that would be kind of annoying, or give them personality traits that they don't normally have that kind of thing. I wouldn't call that embarrassing them. I'll just call that kind of like bad writing in regards to the established character. Um, but yeah, again, point number three. I don't I don't think that's crazy at all to ask for that. Surely that's what everyone who kind of is into this hobby would want. And then point number four, to have their complaints be taken seriously and not brushed aside as bigotry. Well, I mean, you can go through all my channel, in my entire channel, if you wanted, and yeah, you'd see that all my points were actual critiques. So I would want all my actual critiques to be treated as critiques, since they are critiques. And I'm not a bigot of any sort, so I don't know why the focus is on the bigotry over the critiques. There's more critiques than there is. I don't even think there is any real bigotry. I mean, for example, DNC, yeah, he said some stuff that I do not, I would never say myself, and I don't think that it should have ever been said, because that kind of stuff can be, but even if it was a joke and you know you thought you were just like roasting them because they roasted you and X Y Z, that stuff can be held over you forever because the internet does not forget. I would never have said those things, but even though he did say those things that people don't agree with, there is that other side to him that actually does critique things. There's actually a lot of critiquing that goes on in his videos. He may present it in a way that isn't the most articulate or the most thought out, but they are there. And I think there are more of those than anything else he said. I mean, some people have called him a transphobe. He has raised money for a trans charity to kind of apologize for that. And he actually raised quite a bit of money. I can't remember the full amount of how much he raised. But would a bigot do that? Would a transphobe do that? I don't think they really would. But I guess the argument in response to what I just said would be that it's weaponized charity, and therefore it doesn't matter because they're just using the charity to score some brownie points or what have you. But I don't know. I don't know how one can disagree with that. But those 4 points, I don't think they're ridiculous. Less politics, specifically left wing or progressive politics in stories. I'd be saying the exact same thing if it was reversed and there was too much right wing politics in stories. I think there's a nice middle ground where you can reach between the two and have some kind of more apolitical stories in there. Not everything has to be political. I'm into this hobby because I like escapism. I've been reading a lot of manga at the moment, and it is just pure escapism for me. Like, I'm enjoying reading the heck out of One Punch Man at the moment, and I think it's absolutely hilarious. And I would like to see that kind of just like that kind of simple style return of like just that simple style return of just fun comics. Like, I just don't understand why we can't have that. Not hiring writers and artists on the basis of their gender, sexuality, or ethnicity. That, I think that one's crucial to me because, like I said, if someone hired me just because of what I look like and just because of what community I'm from, I would be pissed off. I'd be pissed off. I'd be annoyed. Someone else might not be, but I would be. Hire me because I'm goddamn good, not because of what I look like. Three, no replacing embarrassing or changing of old heroes. Like I said, you kind of have people take up the mantle if it applies to that character and stuff like that. I don't know. I guess there'll be some kind of disagreements among ComicsGate as to who. I think Miles Morales is fine, for example, because he didn't replace 616 Peter. Originally, as part of the Ultimate Universe, replaced 1610 Peter, and then when he was brought in after Secret Wars to 616, it was just him. He didn't replace anybody. He was just in addition. So it's fine. That's what they should have done with all the characters, really. But yeah, I think there would be some disagreements as to other characters and as to what they should have done with those. And but yeah, that's all. Just there's differences within people who are ComicsGate or ComicsGate adjacent, and for to have their complaints be taken seriously and not brushed aside as bigotry, that isn't asking much at all. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of these points, but I think in the video they pretty much go on to kind of say that the people who have these points feel like they're the only ones who are who are the majority of comics, for example. I don't. It's not even that I necessarily feel that we're a group and we're the silent majority and we are comics, so they should listen to us. It's more a case of, doesn't everyone want the comic book industry to do well? You want to be able to go and say to people, yo, you're getting this book. Yo, you're not getting that. You should get that book because that book is great. We purchase the comics. We also cheerlead for comics to try and bring people in constantly. That can't be done if the product is subpar. You know what I mean? Marvel and DC got like a lot of my money while their products were subpar, while I was just sat there waiting, buying every week, every month, every year, waiting for things to get shit hot. And that didn't happen. And I've just gotten to the point now where I'm just like, I can't. The only books I can promote, really, personally, to me, is like Super Sons, which is almost over. I guess Doomsday Clock as well, which is taking ages to come out. Daredevil, Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil, and yeah, so those aren't ridiculous things to ask for. I don't understand as to why they're brought up in that way. But yeah, to go back to the point about being the silent majority, it's not that we're the only audience. You can have diverse characters. I want diverse characters. But write them well. It's really important to write them well, because if you're not, what was the point in writing a character in the first place? A character should be more than their gender, sexuality, ethnicity. Those things should not be that character's number one character trait. They should have actual experiences and failures. The hero's journey. You can do the hero's journey in so many different interesting ways. And as long as you stick to that, I don't think you can go wrong, to be honest, because there's room for growth. If you've got an OP character, an overpowered character from the very beginning, or a character who can do no wrong, or is always congratulated regardless to what they do, there's no room for growth. And that's the whole point. The growth of a character is probably one of the most important and fascinating things to see, because that actually kind of reflects real life and the failures that you or I go through in life, which cause us to grow. That's what really relates us to the characters in comics. There is a link in the description to watch the video, the original video as well. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.